You don't even like hiking. Sierra said, not even looking up from her phone. That's how we didn't invite you. I was still holding the glass dish I just pulled from the oven. Bubbling mac and cheese. Their favorite. They were gathering in my kitchen, stuffing gear into bags, arguing over snacks like it was just another family trip.
Except Isama wasn't in the group chat. She wasn't part of the plan. Wasn't even asked. No warning. No explanation. Just silence. Until I showed up and saw the suitcases. I should have been shocked. But it wasn't the first time.
I'd paid off Jackson's medical bills when he broke his wrist snowboarding. Without insurance, I bailed Sierra out of a $7,000 credit card debt in 2021. She said it was an emergency. I even delayed closing a deal with a state energy client just to drive my mom to her cardiology scan. Did they remember any of it? Number, but I did. When I asked Sierra why they didn't tell me, she rolled her eyes like I was the dramatic one. Then she actually said it. You make everything about you. We just wanted peace. Peace? They used my house, my groceries, my heating bill, my guest room. But the minute I said no to lending money again, suddenly I was too much. So I let them leave. Let them laugh in the driveway. Let them load skis into the back of the SUV. I helped them lease. Then I did something they didn't expect. I locked the house, revoked every digital key, reset every password.
And when my mother called, furious, screaming, "You locked us out. Are you out of your mind?" I said nothing, because I was done begging to be seen in my own family.
And if they want to call me selfish, so be it. I'm Camille. And for years, I thought love meant sacrifice. Now I know better. Before I share the full story, I'd love to know you're here. Drop a simple hi in the comments, or tell me where you're listening from. It means more than you know. Thank you. And now, let me tell you everything. I'm Camille DeVore, 38, a senior engineer in renewable energy based in Boulder, Colorado. I've never missed a deadline in my entire life, professional or personal, especially not when it comes to holidays. While others treat the season as a break, I treat it like a blueprint, a system, flights booked, dinners planned, gifts wrapped, categorized, and labeled. For over a decade, I've been the quiet engine behind every DeVore family holiday. No one asked me to, but when no one else steps up, someone has to. My mother, Loretta, always had a way of smoothing things over. Even when things cracked beneath the surface, her voice could slide over the sharpest truths. It's just family, honey. Don't take it too seriously. And then there's my younger sister, Sierra, free-spirited, often unemployed, always chaotic. Her husband, Jackson, is no better, jobless for most of the past 3 years, but full of opinions. Somehow their problems always became mine to solve. My family's house, the one I grew up in, is still in the red as name. But the mortgage, that's me. I've quietly paid it for 7 years now. I also bought a second property, an Airbnb closer to downtown Boulder. It's the one place that's just mine. Or at least it used to be. Every year, I'd organize our New Year's trip. I'd front the costs, book the cabins, handle the logistics. It wasn't glamorous, but it felt sacred. Like holding together a ritual that no one else valued quite enough to protect. The problem with being the one who holds it all together, though, is that people start to think you'll never fall apart. The day after Christmas, I sent the usual group text, "Hey, just checking in. Anyone want to use the Airbnb for the holidays? Let me know. I'll leave a key." I was working around the clock on a clean energy infrastructure proposal, $12 million in government funding, 2 weeks from submission. There was no way I could travel, but I still offered the house, still offered to pay, still showed up in my own way. Loretta replied within minutes, "No worries, sweetheart. We're just staying home this year. Everyone's taking it easy." No one else responded. Not Sierra, not Jackson. No jokes, no teasing, no gifts, just that one line from my mom. And somehow, it chilled me. Like the warmth was still there, but the heat source was gone. Still, I hung the paper lanterns along my balcony, baked the brown butter walnut cookies no one ever ate. But everyone expected. It's what I did every year, part ritual, part denial. I even wrapped a little basket for Mom, thinking maybe I'd drop it off on New Year's Day if I had time, just like always. Then, on the evening of December 29th, while scrolling through Slack messages from the office, I opened an image accidentally sent by a colleague. It was blurry at first, taken at a ski lodge, probably meant for another But then I saw her, Sierra, laughing under a canopy of snowflakes, her cheeks rosy, her hand tucked into Jackson's, and behind them, unmistakable in her camel coat and red gloves, was Loretta, a banner above their heads, red. "Welcome, Devaro Family Whistler Mountain Resort." I stared at it for a full minute, not because I didn't believe it, but because a part of me did. A part of me had known all along, somewhere under that text message, That silence, that perfect motherly tone, that this wasn't just a change of plans. This was a decision, deliberate, collective. They'd gone. Together, they'd planned it, booked it, flown out, posed for pictures, and smiled under my last name without me, and none of them said a word. Not Sierra, whose credit card debt I'd paid off just 8 months ago. Not Jackson, who once cried on my porch about being treated like a loser. Not Loretta, who kissed my forehead on Thanksgiving and whispered, "We wouldn't have survived without you." I closed my laptop, walked into the kitchen. My cookies were still warm, untouched, my living room glowing with fairy lights. I'd hung myself. I picked up my phone, scrolled back to Mom's text. "We're just staying home this year." And all I could do was laugh quietly, bitterly, because they didn't just go on a trip without me. They left and took my place with them. Camille sat motionless in the driver's seat, her car idling beneath a soft snowfall that stood the edges of the curb. She'd pulled over instinctively after seeing the Whistler photo, her hands gripping the steering wheel long after the engine had gone quiet. The snowflakes tapped against the windshield like tiny reminders, each one falling where her family's honesty had melted away. Colorado was cold, but it didn't touch the cold in her chest. She pressed call under Mom's name. The line rang, once, twice, then clicked through. Loretta picked up on the third ring, voice light and practiced. "Oh, Camille, you caught us in the middle of dinner, just a few days up at Whistler." That's all. Camille didn't answer. She didn't need to. Loretta filled the space anyway. "We figured you'd be busy with a state project, Duncan. You said so yourself, right? We didn't want to stress you out. You understand, don't you, sweetheart?" Camille's jaw tightened. She felt the words piling behind her teeth, but none of them seemed sharp enough to cut through the practiced softness of her mother's tone. So she said nothing, just let the silence land between them like an icicle. "Okay then," Loretta said. "Love you." Camille ended the call without a word. Her fingers moved on their own, tapping out a message to Sierra. "Where are you?" 3 words. Direct, clear, sister to sister. The scene receipt appeared within seconds. No reply followed. Camille stared at the screen until it dimmed, then unlocked her phone again and sent a photo to the family group chat. A fresh shot of the honey-glazed cranberry tart she'd baked that morning. Still warm on the rack. No caption, just the image. Nothing. No thumbs up. No hearts. No yum. From Sierra, or passive-aggressive correction. From Mom about cutting the sugar next time. Just stillness. Like she'd sent a message into deep space. She dropped the phone onto the passenger seat, rested her head back, and let out a slow breath that clouded the inside of the window. That's when the call came in from an unfamiliar number. "Hi, this is Camille." "Hello, Mom. I'm calling from the front desk at the Hillcrest Towers Airbnb complex. Just wanted to confirm. Did you authorize anyone to stay at your unit? There's a group here. Said they were guests of yours. Friends of your sister." Camille's mouth went dry. "No," she said. "I did not authorize anyone." Oh, the woman on the line said, voice tightening. "There's been some noise complaints." "A party, loud music. A few neighbors reported a smell. Possibly marijuana. We just need clarification for liability." Camille hung up. Not rudely, just abruptly. Then opened the control app on her phone. The security cam flickered to life. At first, all she saw was light. Pulsing, colorful, artificial. Then the picture cleared. A swirl of bodies in her living room. Loud music, blinking LEDs, red Solo cups on the counters, and there, unmistakable, Sierra dancing in the middle of it all, like it was her own place.
On the couch, Jackson, legs kicked up on the glass coffee table. Camille had shipped home from Milan after a sustainability expo 3 years ago. He was holding a vape and laughing at something someone said.
From the corner of the screen, a girl was live streaming. "Best New Year's energy ever. My sister's friend hooked us up with this place. Look at this view." Boulder's boozy Camille switched to the kitchen cam. Sierra was at the dining table. Yes, the one Loretta had once called industrial and sterile. Tonight, that table was surrounded by laughter. Half-empty wine glasses, a mess of takeout containers, and designer handbags flopped casually over the chairs. Her wine fridge showed 2 bottles missing. She tapped the inventory screen. Both bottles of the Chilean Cabernet she'd bought last week, reserved for her own quiet New Year's toast. She checked the front door camera next. A delivery man had just dropped off a package. The label read Sierra Devaro, Suite A. Camille froze. That's just because Sierra had used her apartment. Not just because they'd lied, but because Sierra was using her last name to pose as the resident, as the rightful owner. The box sat neatly on her welcome mat. Her name replaced her identity borrowed. The Devaro family on the Whistler banner had been a warning shot. This was the bullet. Camille didn't move for a long time because it wasn't just betrayal. It was a racer. She hadn't just been excluded, she had been replaced. Camille didn't sleep that night, but she didn't cry either. She didn't scream, didn't throw her phone against the wall, didn't call anyone to demand an apology or explanation. Instead, she sat at her kitchen table, wrapped in silence, the glow of her laptop casting sharp angles across her face, and started reviewing numbers. It began with a simple folder labeled "I'm Family." She hadn't opened it in months, maybe years. Inside, receipts, email chains, PDF invoices, screenshots of Venmo transactions, and credit card statements. Line after line, she followed the trail of what she had given: $4,800 St. Augustine Medical Center for mom's outpatient cardiac therapy. Loretta hadn't even thanked her in words, Camille realized, just a thumbs up emoji and a forwarded receipt. A scanned PDF from the Colorado DMV, transfer of title, new registration, monthly payment plan, 2023 Toyota Highlander. The name on the registration, Camille Devarro, but the driver, Jackson, always with sunglasses and an excuse. Then there were screenshots, Chase credit card, $2314.67, payment submitted. The note in the memo, Sierra's PR firm, fell through. She needs help. Camille leaned back, staring at the ceiling. Her throat was dry, but her chest didn't ache the way heartbreaks usually did. This was arithmetic, cold, hard subtraction. She opened her old Instagram. She hadn't posted in over a year, but the archive held plenty of memories. Sierra had once filled her feed with Camille's name. "My sister is an actual angel. Everyone needs a Camille in their life." At the time, those captions had warmed her. Now they read like slogans in a campaign. Camille had never been a person to them. She had been a utility, a sponsor, a well with no bottom. She clicked through to an unread email, half forgotten, from 6 months ago. Subject, keynote speaker inquiry, women in tech, and the silence we swallow. A law firm wanted her to be the face of their campaign. She had declined. Too busy, too loyal to a family that now danced on her boundaries with dirty shoes. She sipped her coffee, cold now. Her finger hovered over the trash bin icon beside the email, but didn't click it. Instead, she minimized the window and opened her iCloud backup folder, one she rarely touched. The system had once been connected to an old iPad she'd given her mother. She expected nothing but maybe calendar spam or outdated family reminders. What she found was a draft folder. She clicked.
One email, never sent, never deleted, from Loretta Devarro to Sierra Devarro. Date, October 12, 11:09 p.m. Sierra, she always makes everything about her.
I'm tired. Loretta, you're right. This year we'll do it without Camille. Don't say anything. She doesn't need the break. She has her job and her money. Sierra, thanks, Mom. Just once I want to be the center. Camille blinked, then reread it. Then again, she didn't throw the laptop. She didn't even turn on the coffee maker. Watch the drip. Listen to the quiet. Outside, the lawn was covered in frost, the patio empty. Just last winter, she had shoveled that yard to build an igloo for Sierra's kids, laughing as they crawled through it, and mittens too big for their fingers. She opened the dishwasher. There was one lipstick-stained wine glass inside, still resting at an angle from Loretta's last visit.
Camille took it out, held it for a moment, then dropped it softly into the trash. The glass didn't shatter. It just landed with a dull, final thunk. She picked up her phone, opened the security app.
One by one, she revoked access to the Airbnb unit. Sierra removed, Jackson removed, smart lock reset, thermostat locked, Wi-Fi disconnected, every inch of the space resecured, quietly, cleanly. Then she sat back at her laptop. She opened a new document. The subject line read, "Formal request, personal asset protection." She addressed it to a law firm, not her family, and she began to write. Camille didn't announce what she had done. She didn't message Sierra, didn't call her mother, didn't even hint at the fact that the locks had been changed or that their access had been erased. There was no declaration of war, just silence, a quiet reclamation of space. She poured herself a fresh cup of black coffee, darker than the winter morning outside her kitchen window, and opened her laptop. With a steady breath, she began drafting the email, not to her family, but to Alex Rosen, the legal counsel she had worked with on the multi-million-dollar energy project for the state.
The man who dealt with lawsuits like most people dealt with traffic tickets. Her subject line was direct, urgent, legal protection, request unauthorized use of property.
In the body, she detailed her demands: a formal cease and desist to be delivered to Sierra and Jackson within 72 hours, a draft of a property rights enforcement document clarifying her sole ownership of the Boulder unit, a request to itemize and compile supporting documents of all funds transferred to family, hospital fees, vehicle purchases, debt repayments, personal loans, total 61 Camille paused, fingers hovering over the keys. Then she attached the screenshots, PDFs, and photos she had compiled. She also included one more document, an internal email exchange between her mother and sister that she had quietly saved from the backup. She sent the email, and with that, she shut her laptop like closing a door to a room that had been too loud for too long. Next, she opened the smart home control app. One by one, she disabled every camera inside the Airbnb living room, offline kitchen, offline hallway, offline. She left one active, the front-facing camera pointed at the main door. That one would stay on for legal documentation. She didn't want to spy. She just wanted to protect what was hers. Later that afternoon, she sat on her couch, phone in hand, scrolling through old messages from Sierra 3 years ago. I'm about to lose this contract, Camille. Can you spot me $2,000 till Friday? Jackson lost his wallet again. Can you help with the rent this month? I'll pay you back next week, I swear. There had never been a next week. At the time, Camille hadn't thought twice. She transferred the money again and again because she believed that keeping the family together, keeping the peace, was worth it. Because she believed that maybe, just maybe, if she gave enough, she'd finally be accepted. Now, those messages read differently, like smoke signals from a fire she had been the only one trying to put out. Not blood, not kin, just opportunists who'd learned she wouldn't say no. She clicked back to her inbox. Alex had replied quickly as always. Legally speaking, you have more than enough to press charges. Identity misuse, property invasion, misrepresentation of ownership. If you choose to pursue this, we can proceed immediately. Camille didn't respond. Not yet. Instead, she opened an app no one knew she used. A private Instagram account. No more than a dozen followers, not public. No name attached. Just a space where she sometimes posted sunsets or coffee cups or snowfall against her windows. That day, she posted something different. A silent video, 37 seconds, no captions except one, no voiceover, no music, just moments. A photo of her mother last winter, smiling as she accepted the keys to the new car Camille bought her. A video of Sierra hugging Camille tightly during her birthday in 2020, saying, I don't deserve you. The now infamous Whistler photo, everyone but Camille. A screenshot of the email. Don't let her be the center anymore. And beneath it, a simple caption. I'm just taking back the umbrella I held open for too long. She didn't tag anyone. She didn't name names. But the video was shared. First by one friend, then another, then dozens, then hundreds. Camille leaned back into the quiet of her home. She wasn't making noise. She was making space. The video Camille had quietly posted did not explode in a frenzy. It didn't scream for attention. It whispered. And yet its echo traveled faster than anything she'd ever spoken out, not because it was dramatic, but because it was true. The silence inside it screamed louder than rage ever could. By the time she woke the next morning, the post had made its way through a web of quiet circles, co-workers, neighbors, old classmates, even a few people from her graduate program. She hadn't named anyone, but the message was unmistakable, and people knew how to read between the lines. Sierra, predictably, responded the only way she knew how, performatively. A TikTok appeared less than 24 hours later. Soft background music, Sierra, in light makeup and an oversized hoodie, blinking through tears. Some people will always be jealous. Some people think they own the holidays, but I'm done letting myself be controlled. I deserve joy too. I deserve to be seen. It might have worked. A few comments even offered support, until someone in the replies dug up an old Instagram post of hers. To my angel sister who made this Dubai trip happen. Chanel sandals and sunset views. You're a goddess. More surfaced. Sierra in designer handbags, sipping champagne in Aspen, tagging Camille over and over with heart emojis and gratitude that now looked more like branding than affection. Jackson, meanwhile, tried to apply for a new line of credit through a fintech startup. The application flagged instantly. One of the addresses he submitted was listed as a property under legal dispute. That triggered a deeper Suddenly, forum threads and Reddit posts began cross-referencing him to failed real estate ventures, bad loans, property abandonments. The digital trail Jackson thought he'd left, scattered quietly, began reassembling itself behind him.
Camille didn't watch any of this unfold in real time. She didn't need to. She had already walked away from that stage. Then her phone rang. Call her ID. Mom. She stared at it for a beat, considered not answering, but then she...
Camille? Loretta's voice was thinner than usual, a little breathless. What are you doing? Do you know how many people have asked me what's going on?
My Bible study group, even the Thompsons from across the street messaged. You're airing laundry that doesn't need to be hung up.
Camille didn't flinch. Her voice was level, soft even.
I didn't say anything, Mom. If people are seeing something, maybe it's not me who put it out there. A pause. Then Camille, stop being vindictive. Camille almost smiled. I'm being quiet, just like I always was. Loretta hung up. No apology and no concern, just fury over appearances. Camille set the phone down. She didn't throw it. She didn't tremble. She walked into the kitchen, flipped the switch on her espresso machine, and waited for the low hiss of steam to start. On the table nearby was a manila folder from Alex. She opened it again, even though she already knew what it said. Unauthorized use of property. Named parties. Sierra Dovero, Jackson Craig, filing reference CD1. Her name printed boldly, legally, permanently, no longer just behind the scenes, no longer the financial backer with no voice. She remembered, out of nowhere, the trip to Italy she canceled. Flights booked, hotel confirmed, canceled when her mom's health took a downturn. She'd stayed behind, rearranged surgeries, held her mother's hand through anesthesia and checkups. No one mentioned that again. It just vanished into the pile of things Camille was supposed to do.
Their laptop pinged. It was Alex. We've officially filed. They now have 72 hours to respond before formal legal enforcement begins. Attached are our confirmation documents and next steps.
Camille didn't click at the attachments right away. She simply looked at the time in the corner of the screen, 11:26 a.m. She wasn't counting down out of revenge. She just wanted to remember the precise moment silence began returning to her. Silence that no longer meant invisibility, but ownership. That night, Camille went to her wine cabinet. The last bottle of Chilean red sat untouched in the back corner, one she had bought for a New Year's toast. She uncorked it slowly, let it breathe for a moment, then poured a single glass. She didn't raise it for a cheer. She didn't clink it with anyone else's. She simply drank, calm, alone, steady. No celebration, no audience, just... The second video Camille posted wasn't longer than a minute. It had no dramatic filter, no clever caption, just a quiet scroll of text lines from an email that should have never been seen outside a private inbox. No narration, no commentary, only their words echoing crisp. She always makes it about her. I'm tired, let her work. She has money, she won't even notice. Loretta's voice had never been there. Literally. But her tone, her intentions, they didn't need a recording. The lines were enough to make people stop mid-scroll and watch again. In the family group chat, Sierra's reply came quickly. You're seriously sick, like you need actual help. This isn't normal. Camille didn't reply. No explanation, no defense. Just a small thumbs up reaction. It sat below the message like a period, final and dismissive. That same day, Loretta posted a Facebook status. Her privacy settings were open. Camille didn't follow her anymore, but someone screenshot it. Being a mother is easy, especially when one child insists on rewriting every memory just to stay a victim. Underneath, a comment visible to anyone is that why y'all left her out of the Whistler trip? That tracks now. The silence Camille had once been burdened with was unraveling, not as noise, but clarity. People weren't being told anything. They were seeing everything. Late that evening, Camille received a message request in her inbox from a small but steadily growing independent podcast called Dismantled Bloodlines. They covered family estrangement, financial manipulation, and gaslighting in family dynamics.
We'd love to hear your side of this story.
Off record, on record, any format, just your voice. When you're ready, Camille stared at the message for a long time, then typed, I'll share it, but it'll be on my terms. It wasn't about exposure. It was about permission to herself to finally take up space. The next day, another email came through. This one from a burner address. The subject line read, You don't know me, but I knew her. It was from Sierra's ex-boyfriend. She used to joke that you were her walking aid. She said you lived alone because you were too controlling for any man to stick around. Honestly, I believed her then. I didn't know better. Camille didn't flinch. She simply forwarded the email to Alex, her lawyer, with a message for record. Don't need follow-up yet. No anger, just documentation. Somewhere on social media, someone had clipped her original video, the silent one with the emails, and reposted it with a caption. This woman said nothing, and we heard everything. It hit 450,000 views within a day. The hashtag But Camille did nothing started trending. On the same threads where Sierra had tried to stir your drama family, people commented things like, she's been carrying them like a meal. This is what happens when quiet people stop swallowing it. Not every villain yells, some just smile while you're burning. Camille didn't engage, but she noticed, and she wasn't as surprised as she thought she'd be. That afternoon, back at her office in Boulder, she stood in front of a conference room lined with solar schematics and updated grid maps. Her team was finalizing phase 2 of a renewable energy rollout, and Camille had a dozen reports to review. After the meeting, as people filed out, one of the newer engineers, a young woman in her 20s, lingered at the doorway. She looked hesitant at first, then simply said, "Just so you know, you're brave, like really brave. And a lot of us, people like me, needed someone like you to exist right now." Camille didn't know what to say. Compliments had always made her uneasy, like wearing someone else's shoes, but this time she met the young woman's eyes and gave a small, genuine nod. "Thank you," she said quietly. "That means more than you know." For the first time in years, Camille didn't feel like the backdrop to her own story. She wasn't just the bank, or the safety net, or the organizer of every damn holiday. She was a person, and she wasn't standing alone anymore. It started with a call from the credit bureau. Someone had tried to open a new auto loan using Camille's home address. She didn't need to guess. She logged into the system, checked the flagged application, and there it was, Jackson's full name, her address listed neatly under his contact info, like nothing had ever happened. Camille forwarded everything to the Boulder Police Department. Copies of the Airbnb ownership documents, digital leases, the cease and desist letter from her attorney. The case was accepted for preliminary review under false residency declaration and attempted fraud. A few days later, a letter arrived in her mailbox. Handwritten, 2 full pages of her mother's cursive, but not once of the word sorry appeared.
"I never thought things would go this far. You've made me feel ashamed in front of our community."
Camille read it once, folded it back up, left it unopened on the counter for a week before finally placing it into her filing cabinet under correspondence non-essential. She wasn't angry, she was just done. That night, she posted a new photo. It was a still from her security camera, a wide-angle shot of her Airbnb's living room. Party lights cast a reddish hue on the floor. A wine bottle sat open on the industrial-style table her mother once called ugly. The caption read, "They called me selfish for asking to have back the home I paid for." The image was picked up by a journalist at the Denver Post. The headline the next day read, "What does it mean to be selfish? Saying no or being silent while you're used." Then came an email from Camille's employer, not from HR, but from the legal affairs manager who'd worked with the state justice office. "We're aware of what you're going through. The Department of Justice has reached out. They're requesting you as a guest speaker at an upcoming forum on familial boundary violations and property misuse. Only if you're comfortable." Camille stared at the message for a moment, then replied, "Tell them I'll do it." Later, she took a walk along Sloan's Lake. It was cold, the air crisp against her cheeks. She held a cup of hot coffee with both hands, letting the warmth bleed into her fingers. A little girl in a red jacket darted across the rail in front of her, laughing, her mittens flapping. Camille smiled, not a bitter smile, not a sad one either, just she'd been that child once. She remembered believing in the safety of a house, the warmth of a dinner table, the unshakable truth that family meant never having to ask to be included. Standing at the lake, she whispered, "Family isn't where you stay silent to be loved. It's where you speak and still belong." But she knew they had stopped loving her long ago. She was just now beginning to leave. December 30th, Camille opened an email marked urgent docket notification. The civil court had accepted the full case against Sierra and Jackson: unlawful occupation, credit misuse, and identity fraud. She read the ruling twice, eyes dry, hands steady. Later that day, she met with Alex, her lawyer, at a neutral downtown co-working space. Also present were a Denver Post reporter and a representative from Dismantled Bloodlines podcast. Camille laid out every document, photo, screenshot, and email like puzzle pieces. "You can share it," she said, "but not through your lens, through mine. Every word, every timeline stays true. No edits, no framing me as a victim or a villain." They nodded. She signed a limited media release, retaining full editorial approval. Then that night, Camille posted one final video to her Instagram. It wasn't a montage, it wasn't emotional, it was just a voiceover, her voice. "They called me selfish because I wouldn't let them use my home because I dared say I was used." But if being a good person means losing my dignity, then I'll gladly be the villain in their story. The video went viral in less than 12 hours, and then the twist nobody saw coming. Camille announced that the apartment, the car, the leftover credit balance, all assets that had once tethered her to their expectations would be legally donated to Women Rising Free, a nonprofit supporting women rebuilding after emotional and financial abuse. The public reaction was immediate. It wasn't just admiration. It was shock that someone would relinquish so much, not for revenge, but for clarity, not to prove she was right, but to make sure she was finally free. That same day, Loretta, Sierra, and Jackson each received a formal notice from the court. Legal injunctions filed, assets frozen, credit flagged. They were officially cut off. Sierra live-streamed herself crying on TikTok. My sister is destroying my life. She's making me out to be a monster.
But the tide had turned. You used her like an ATM. Monsters don't cry when they lose the free ride. You only called her sister when you needed money. The comment section wasn't kind.
Meanwhile, Camille sat in a quiet coffee shop tucked away off Broadway. The snow outside softened the city noise. She took a sip of her drink, eyes unfocused, watching flakes drift past the window pane. A woman in her 50s approached quietly, tentative. I just wanted to say, your story gave me the courage to leave. After 18 years of being told I was ungrateful. Camille nodded. No smile, no grand response, just acknowledgement, just breathe. For the first time, she wasn't holding her breath in her body anymore. She looked into her reflection in the window, not searching for anything, just recognizing someone who had stopped asking for permission to step into the light. They said, I've changed, she whispered to herself. Maybe I have, but the only real change is that I no longer ask who's okay with it. January 2nd, Camille received the final notice in the box. Sierra and Jackson had formally withdrawn their right to appeal. They had accepted the financial penalty and were now permanently banned from accessing any property under Camille's name. That morning, she met Alex one last time. In the quiet of a modest office overlooking downtown Denver, they signed the last round of documents, transferring ownership of the apartment, the car, and the relevant credit rights to Women Rising Free. I don't want to hold on to anything that's been violated under the name of gratitude, Camille said, her tone even. They've already taken enough from me. Alex nodded. No words of congratulations, just the gravity of closure. The court had issued a restraining order. 3 years of mandated no contact for both Sierra and Jackson. Any breach would be handled as a criminal offense. Camille hadn't sued her mother, but she blocked Loretta on every channel. No more calls, no more emails, no more family group chats. That night, she boxed a small parcel and sent it to her mother's address. No return name, so just 3 words printed on the outside. One last debt. Inside was a framed photo, Sierra Jackson and Loretta in Whistler. The one Camille was never in. On the back of the frame, taped delicately, was a handwritten note. This is your family. I'm no longer in it. Back at home, Camille took down the old family pictures, the Christmases, the school graduations, the beach trips where she was always behind the camera. She didn't burn them. She didn't tear them up. She placed them in a cardboard box, sealed it, and labeled it. Complete. The weight didn't vanish, but it did settle. Later that week, during a pre-recording interview for a podcast appearance, the producer looked across at her and asked gently, if you could say one thing to those who hurt you, what would it be? Camille paused, then replied with a quiet certainty, nothing. They'll never hear from me again. The next morning, Camille stood on the balcony of her new apartment, a modest place, just hers. No one in her family had ever stepped foot here. She inhaled the cold air deep into her lungs. It wasn't sadness. It wasn't resentment. It was the strange, unfamiliar weightlessness that follows when you're no longer tethered to a name just because it's tied to blood. A month after the final ruling, Camille opened a cream-colored envelope tucked into her mailbox. Inside was an invitation, an annual conference on personal liberation and social boundaries. Theme, when family is not where you return, but where you escape from, she accepted, not for validation, not for recognition, but because truth, when told from the mouth of the person who lived it, carries its own kind of healing. When Camille took the stage, she didn't rage, she didn't cry. She spoke in moments, in pauses, in soft cadence of someone who'd already made peace with being misunderstood. She told them about the $4,800 hospital bill, the car title she paid off, the birthday party she was never invited to, but mostly she spoke about silence, how it swells when used as currency, how it costs more than any dollar amount she ever wired, After the talk, as the crowd dispersed, a middle-aged woman with streaks of silver in her hair approached her slowly. "You don't have to forgive," the woman said quietly. "You're not required to. Just live. That's enough." Camille smiled. For the first time in weeks, it wasn't forced. Back home, her new apartment felt warmer that evening. Not because of the heater, but because of what she planted. A young pear tree in a large ceramic pot out on the balcony, a colleague had told her once, over lunch. Pear trees can survive even the coldest winters, as long as they're not uprooted. Camille looked out at the slender little tree, not tall, not flashy, but it stood, and so did she. Lunar New Year came that weekend. Camille received a gentle knock on her door, her Vietnamese neighbors from across the hall. They'd prepared dinner, and someone had noticed she'd be alone. "We always leave one seat open," the mother said, "for someone who can't go home but still needs one."